Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be here with us. This is our very first time to try to gather midweek, and I thought it might be a great opportunity for small business owners to get together, and wanted to make myself available to some of you guys to answer questions. There's a lot of things it's hard to keep up, and if you're running a business of any size, you need all the help you can get. I know I do. So again, thank you guys for being here and being a part of this. If you would, please, this is a Q&A type session. It's going to be casual. I do have a presentation that I'm prepared to make. But this is all about really hearing from you guys and us connecting and sharing ideas and maybe getting questions answered. So anyway, let me know if you're in the chat there. Use whatever platform you're joining us on to let me know you're there, and start to fill up any questions you have. Just say, hey, let me know, where you're watching from today, and let me know that you're there. So again, I want to thank everybody who's taken some time to join. I will be very aware of your time. And if you need to bail at any point, that is totally fine. So first and foremost, you got to keep the business going. So if you're ready to get started, I'm ready to dive in. My name is Charles C. Gaines. The C is for Christopher. So many of you guys know me as Chris, which is great. And so once we get to know each other and become family, you pretty much call me anything for the most part. But I have been in the business of helping businesses and organizations of all sizes basically tell their story for the past 30 plus years. And the forms have taken all different shapes and sizes. And what I want to talk about today is what is it that's moving the needle right now? And, at the end of the day, it's all about continuing to fill that bucket. And if we don't have good, warm leads, the locomotive starts to grind to a halt. So what we want to talk about today is what is going on right now that is red hot. What is it that you can do to continue to get more leads, good qualified leads, and really build your brand without spending more money and without trying to figure out how you can carve more time out of your day already. You've already got way too much on your plate. So the promise of technology was that it would give us all this free time. But if you're anything like me, you're working more hours and doing too many things that you can't even really focus on what's going on today. So with that in mind, and saying hey to everybody in the chat, good to see you guys. Thanks again so much for jumping on. We're going to get started with my little presentation, and again, I'll take some breaks if you guys have a question. I want this to be casual, but I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. And again, because I'm a business owner just like you, I've got several businesses of my own. They're all at different levels. Some of them were just trying to get off the runway. Some have been going on for a while, and they all have their different needs. But if you're like me, you've got so many different things pulling at you, and you certainly want to take and make time to educate yourself and get your questions answered, but you just don't have enough bandwidth to watch all the podcasts and keep up with all the shows. So I'm going to start, as any good business owner would, with the bottom line, and I'm going to just flip the narrative. I'm going to tell you where I'm coming from, what I've got to sell, and then we'll set that aside. And then we'll kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the information that you're looking for, that we're all looking for to take our business to the next level. So starting with the bottom line, I do have a company. I've been in the business for, like I said, 30 plus years telling stories. And so we cover the gambit. We can handle websites and social media and on-site digital communications, email campaigns, direct mail, the whole 9 yards. I started my own agency back in the late 80s, early 90s. And we watched the advent of the internet and digital media and the conversions and so forth. So kind of been there and done that, and come all full circle. We offer our services in packages, roughly based on, it's totally based on volume. So $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month to do all sorts of things. And I can sit down and go with you through all that. But lately, we've also looked at some different individual products that, because of what we're going to be talking about in a minute, we need to create something that doesn't take much time and doesn't take many elements. And so in 30 minutes, with an iPhone, we can create amazing content today. The technology now allows us to do that. So one of my lost leaders right now is coming in and telling the busy business owner, look, all I need is 30 minutes and an iPhone. If you got those two things, we can start to create some amazing content for you. Um, we've got the ability through the platforms that have at our fingertips now, where I can now go remotely in a Zoom type setting and actually direct and record offsite. I can do it anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, and get amazing results. Let me go ahead and just show you. This is a screenshot of one that we just did a couple of weeks ago, where we did the whole thing remotely, and this is how it turned out.
Hey everybody, it's Jason here with Hydrofin, and I am super excited to announce that we are going to have a live webinar on Tuesday the 21st at 7:30 Central Standard Time. And what we're going to be talking about here is really kind of the benefits that you get out of the system. So what to expect if you were to purchase a Hydrofin system with your boat. We're also going to be talking about the future of Hydrofin. We've got some new exciting products that are coming out here in 2024. And finally, probably most importantly, is we're going to be answering your questions. So be thinking about what questions you've got for us, and we're going to be taking those live. So if you've been thinking about Hydrofin, now is the time to buy, because we are offering the biggest discounts that we will through the entire year. And the promotion code that we're going to offer for this seminar is going to add on top of that. So don't wait, don't delay. I promise you, these are the biggest discounts that we're going to offer for the year. So we look forward to seeing you there.
Boom, just like that. So that was a highly effective piece of content that obviously promoted an upcoming webinar. We're going to talk a little bit about webinars and the value of that as well, but there's all sorts of different opportunities now that you can not only create the content, but connect with your customers and educate those customers to make them hot leads. And that's what we want to do. But that one was done completely remotely. We just set, the customer had an iPhone and we logged on and literally just kind of coached them through it. Okay, take one, blah, 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 blah. Okay, change this. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, let's do it again. And then we take the raw footage and then we do our thing. And that's where the magic happens there. So again, I just wanted to show you in the big picture, the business that I'm in. This is how I earn my living. And so, if you're interested in this, and somebody that wants to know more about how to create amazing content, I'd love to talk to you guys about that and have, send anybody my way. But what I really want to do today is give you a gift, and that's the information and the experience that I have, just like what you guys have. I truly believe we're in a day and age right now where we need to be sharing our information and building relationships, which will create lasting customers. So again, it's a philosophical shift, a seismic shift that we've had to where, as opposed to that scarcity where we keep everything in and don't share our trade secrets, I think you guys are all finding more and more the way to go is to open up and share some of these things because you want to build your brand and you want to build your value to where people are coming to you as an industry expert. So to that end, that's really what I want these weekly sessions to be, is a chance for me to give a gift back to whoever wants to sit down at the virtual table with me and talk and ask questions. So at this point, I want to kind of shift gears. I'm happy to go back and answer questions about our business and how we charge for what we do and all the different services we have. But just suffice it to say for now, that's the business I'm in. And I kind of want to shift gears and talk a little bit about sharing with you some big picture trends and how you guys can leverage that. Just real quick, let me acknowledge a couple of folks out there. Yo, what's up? That's Jason. Good looking guy on that video. Good to see you, buddy. Scott, thanks. If you want, I can give you hair chips. I'm happy to do that. Miss Megan, awesome. All my friends and clients are jumping in, all my rowdy friends. Scott saying, way to go, Jason. All right. So obviously I'm using a platform here that has begun to serve me well. And it's called StreamYard. And I'll just go ahead and jump in and give you a recommendation if you want to make a note. If you want to get into the game of creating content virtually like this, if you want to do webinars, if you want to start, we're using it for video podcasting. It's very robust. I spent a lot of time, a lot of hours researching and trying what did and didn't work. So if you want to save some time and effort there, and you've considered at the end of this, you start thinking, man, I've got to start hitting record and I've got to start creating content. This is a platform that I highly recommend. It's called StreamYard. I don't get anything from it, but I want to help you guys out and save some hassle there. So that's what I'm using there. What I'm doing right now is actually streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, as well as the webinar platform itself. So that's 4 different things. So it gives you that ability to maximize your effort. You hit record, you know, if everything works right, it's streaming. And then not only are you collecting new potential viewers that maybe didn't know about you or didn't get invited, you get into the whole SEO algorithm system, and they love pushing those live broadcasts. But then you've got the content for later. Matter of fact, one of the things that is a huge reason that you want to be creating video content is repurposing. Let me pull up a short that we make. So you've got, let's say you've got 30 minutes to an hour's worth of a webinar or an interview. What can you do with that? You can segment little clips out of those for a short. And here's an example of a full podcast where we pulled 15 seconds, 30 seconds out of it and created an impactful short for social media.
So autism doesn't just impact the child, it impacts the whole entire family. It doesn't just impact Colby, it impacts you, it impacts your wife, it impacts siblings, it impacts grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, the whole family. When we talk about different treatments, we talk about how we're going to treat that child, but we really need to look at how we're going to treat the whole entire family.
So you can see how powerful that can be from just a clip out of an entire broadcast. So you want to continue to multiply your efforts. All right. So whether, you've got a podcast you're doing, or you're going to sit down and do the little 30 minutes in an iPhone, you want to be able to create clips out of that. So that becomes something you can use for a volume standpoint. As you know, we can get into that a little bit more. What we're seeing is you kind of need both. You need the long form stuff to build audiences and to build, at some point we'll talk a little bit about the possibility of monetization and stuff like that. But you've got to, the attention span is just getting minuscule. So we've got to have those 30-second clips, on the social media platforms to drive them to that longer content. Hey, Hannah, good to see you. Thanks for dropping in. Thanks, Megan. You look good too on there. You look great. All right, so let's just move along here. So let me give you the overview. Here's what I want you to take away. The big takeaways, 3 big takeaways. And this is what I want you to be thinking as you're ending the year and starting to think about the new year. Here's what I want you to think about going into it, and ask yourself, how do I create more leads, but less of you? Okay, that's the goal. Everything has to be run through that filter. Is it possible, and how are we going to do that? And I believe it can. I've seen it happen, and I'm applying this to my business as well. Anything I can do to help clone myself and make more money sounds like the holy grail. But I've seen it done by people not as sharp as you guys. And I know you guys can do it. So the question is, how do we get there? So we say this every year. We can't run from it anymore. We've got to leverage technology. And it's easy to say and hard to do, because the problem now is there's so many platforms. Who has time to research them? Who has time to test them? Once you get them integrated, they're obsolete. One thing after the other. So you've got to pick trusted partners. You've got to figure out how to cobble together a team. And each business might be a little different on how that works. We can't ignore what AI is bringing to the table now. Yes, it's Chat GPT. Yeah, it's a lot of things. But like any new technology, it's as good as the person who wields it. And there's the learning curve and prompt engineering and all that kind of stuff. Our company is heavily invested in that. I'm working on, if there's an interest by guys like you guys to be able to have a partner that can help you harness this kind of stuff. How do I make it work for myself? How do I make it my information? How do I not? There's so many questions when you start diving into, if you've tried to do anything in Chat GPT, it's part amazing, part terrifying. Reminds me a little bit when we first got our first satellite dish. I had this massive satellite dish and just got everything. I mean, everything. It wasn't filtered. It wasn't segmented. It wasn't curated. It was just a free for all. And so I'm seeing that again. And so how do you use it, and how do you apply it to your business? I would say the baby steps are video. I've not seen anything this powerful in decades, and the ability to get in quickly and to get in cheaply and make a big impact. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about video. So from a technology standpoint, those are the 2 things that I think you've really got to focus on. Okay. So the third thing in a macro view is the whole purpose of this is to increase value. And I'm going to say this on 2 fronts. There is the increasing the value of your business. What's your long-term play? Is it to build this business and pass it on to the next generation of your family? Is it to sell it and go retire or go scuba diving? Scott, I'm talking to you. the question is, how do you do that? How do you increase that value? So the second half of that, also I want to attribute this to my good friend Scott, who reminds me that he is in the business of trying to separate himself from the competition. Okay. In a world where everything's getting pushed down and pushed together and more vanilla and more commoditized, he wants to stand out and say, yeah, you can go to another flooring company. You can go to another refurbishing company, remodeling company, roofing company, but you're going to go to me because A, you know me, you've already watched all my videos, you know how I do business, I've educated you, I've created a relationship with you, and you just don't know anybody else like that. So I've already sold myself to you. I've already done all that work without even having to show up or talk with you. And I can keep my profit margins where they have to be for me to even stay in business and make this worth my time. So if you want what I provide, that's where you start to get the little glimpse of being, hey, how can Luka Doncic, command a salary like that? Because there isn't another one like him. And you have to take the good with the bad. If you want him to complain about the fouls, you got to pay him the money because he's going to put in 41 points like last night. So if you want Scott, you're just going to pay what he's charging, but he's going to give you a great value, and he's got a track record to prove it. So the point is, how do you get your business to the point where you can keep the value of that business for whatever purpose that is? Okay. So at this point, I'm going to hit pause for a second and say, if you're interested in anything you've heard so far, I'd love for you to stick around. If you got to head on, I totally get that. That's fine. But hopefully I've piqued your interest in one of these areas. So the rest of my little presentation is going to focus on why you need to think about video and what are some of these things, how will you get into them, and some of the whys behind that. And hopefully that'll spark some thoughts in you that you might want to ask some questions about. Well, you mentioned this, how does that actually work? Or I've heard about that. What do you think about that? I'm happy to try to answer any kind of trend type questions or things that you've heard or seen. Okay. So let me just check the chat here. Jason jumps in and he's just saying about Scott. He's talking about super simple, cost effective. Yeah. Just that little thing you saw there. I think it just really hit Jason's needs that he had. Super busy, one arm paper hanger, doing a little bit of everything, but he knows he's got a very visual, very visceral brand. And so he's got to do some really cool things to compete along the lines of, GoPro and Lexus and people that want to take their their pontoon boat and take it to the next level. So, you got to keep in mind who the audience you're trying to reach and how to reach them on their level. Scott says, if you pay, you'll like it. Absolutely. I love the comments. I love the encouragement. If you, at some point you might throw me a few questions, try to stump me. I don't know if you want to do music trivia or if you want to talk sports, I'm fine with that too. But thanks guys for hanging out. All right. Unless there's any other brilliant, hard questions for me, I'm going to proceed just a little bit and talk about what I'm super passionate about. And that is the power of story. So what I want you to think about after you get those three main tent poles in place, and that is what your superpower is your story and the power of story itself. Basically, I want to remind you today that your greatest asset in your company, no matter how big or how small it is you. I mean, let's just face it and be reminded that you're their best salesperson. You're the best practitioner. I do some stuff in the medical field. And so we talk a lot about chiropractors and doctors. And when it comes down to it, it's about them. And so I really have a heart for people that are do it all kind of people, jack of all trades, because our strengths get us there. We may be really great in sales and we're just blowing doors, got plenty of sales. We're just dying on the vine when it comes to, keeping those customers and keeping them happy or training people. It's like having a Hall of Fame coach, a Hall of Fame player who goes into coaching and just can't coach a crap because he just doesn't know how to communicate to his people. And what I found is some of my clients, they love using some of these tools as a training tool, as a teaching tool. They may not use it as much for going out and marketing because that may not be the biggest need they have. But man, I'm getting killed every day. I have to go to somebody on my team or somebody that I've hired because I got tons of turnover and I have to explain to them, here's our philosophy. Here's how we do this. I want you to do this. I want you to go watch this video and do what I did on that video. If you will do that. And so we start getting reports of, man, not only did it help me, but I gave it to my client. And when I sat and met with them, they already had their answers done. Then they were to go, hey, watch that one video, and so-and-so said something about this. Tell me more about this. And they were able to be more of a consultant than they were a salesperson. You all got those kind of people that you trust them completely, but they just don't have that it factor when it comes to being able to close or to, communicate with them. And so that's another way you can do that. So you've got to find a way to duplicate yourself. So you may, out of this whole thing, figure out, I may not start a podcast. I may not become a YouTube sensation, but I've got to multiply myself. I've got to use video to do that. So what I tell my customers, my clients, it's content. I mean, I don't know a business out there now that doesn't have some website, doesn't have a Facebook page. You've got all the elements. It's like you've built all the rooms, but most of them are unfurnished and almost all of them are not lived in. Can I get an amen? And so the question becomes, what do I do? Money's going out the door, but I'm not seeing any return. I spent a bunch of money on pay-per-click, or I spent a bunch of money on SEO, and it's just not moving the needle. It's because things have moved so fast, and the ability to create good content, we're just getting crushed by TikTok entrepreneurs and the attention span. All these things we can talk about more, but we've got to pivot and adjust, and we've got to figure out we're way beyond the if you build it, they will come. That was the initial thing. Give me a website, put up my stuff. But how many of you, ask yourselves, how many people go to a website? And when you do, you've got a specific purpose. And I am looking for X. I'm looking for their phone number. I'm looking for their warranty. I'm looking for their pricing. I really want to talk to somebody. I'm getting to where I don't even go to websites that don't have, live chat, because even if it's a bot, I'm trying to get quick answers. So that's something you've got to keep in mind. Think about you as a consumer, and then put yourself in the shoes of your consumer as well. Can I get an amen? Amen. So content. Let's talk about the power of story. You may be thinking, I'm not a kind of person that can get up in front of a camera. Now, Scott happens to be, I'm going to pick on him today. A lot of my customers are really good on camera. Some of them have gotten to be good because they're doing that. But as you're sitting here thinking, what is it that I'm going to talk about? Well, first of all, you need to know, with the advent of AI and Chat GPT, there's really no excuse now for not coming up with content. Okay. And I'm happy to help you with that. Set that aside. You need to think about, what is it you do know about? And you could talk about at the drop of a hat. If we go have drinks somewhere, you're just going to be able to go pop, 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 and rattle things off about your industry, what's going on in the industry, good, bad, and indifferent. What are those industry breakthroughs? Maybe you've got new services or new products. You can testimonials. That's where we can get great content. Talking about the product itself. And I'm going to show you some stats here in a second where that comes from. And just your personality. You got it. One thing I would say more than anything, and this is coming from a guy who's constantly working on, do they like me? Do you like me? To get on there and just hit record and just say, I'm going to be me. Just be yourself. You're just going to have to do you. You can't go find and say, that guy down in Houston who's just crushing it, I'm going to go do exactly what he's doing. I think the best advice that I've gotten and that I've learned is, when you do it, just go out there and be yourself. And that's ultimately, what the people are looking for anyway. So this is a slide that basically shows what we do with that kind of content. It's one thing to identify it, we get our hands on it, then what can we do with it? We're talking about educational videos. We're talking about interviews. And you can see right here how many different ways you can repurpose this stuff, or how you can actually get it out there in the marketplace. So at this point, let me just say, what drives us and what we're about, that we think moves the needle, is to be able to help identify and find customers who we're trying to do the work that they're already sold. And this is a two-part, already been sold on you. Because the first part is, they need to already have been sold. You want them, by the time they get to you, you've got to cut that. If you were to draw a Venn diagram, you've got to get all that out of the way without you having to do it. Just look at your budget right now and figure out how much time, money, and energy you're spending on just getting the word out and educating them yourself. I mean, you can only go to so many, you can only call on so many people. You can go to so many trade shows. You can go to so many events, but we want to be able to do that 24/7. Okay. And then it's on you. The second part of it is not just being sold. I mean, there's a lot of us that are going to be educating the marketplace, and they're going to go buy from somebody else. That's fine, especially if you're not having to do it. Right now, you're already doing it yourself. How many times you've gone and done all the work, and then the bid goes to someone else. Okay. But we want them sold on you. We want them at the end of the day to say, I watched those videos. I listened in on that webinar. I did all my due diligence. I want to go with that guy. I want to go with that gal because I just click with her. Right. I'm getting some more. Hey, Paul, what's up, man? Thanks for joining. So that's the goal at the end of the day. This is the visual I want to give you. We have to remember that everybody that is going to end up putting money in our bank account is looking like this all the time. Sometimes when you're talking to them, if you have a reception area, if you have a lobby, they're sitting in there, and we've spent time and effort trying to educate people. We've got videos going on the screens, and they're all looking at their own screen. Okay. So this is just the reality. You probably know this, but I want to reinforce it and just remind you. And to that end, let me show you some statistics that I think will really kind of open your mind. So this was back in this is January 22. So I'm anxious to get some of the new numbers. But the question is, people that are spending time on these social media apps, what are they looking at and how much time are we talking? So this is a chart that's about time. So just YouTube and Facebook, we're talking almost 24 hours a week, which is almost 100. And these aren't separate. These aren't in silos. Think of them being overlapped. So you're talking about 2 to 4 hours a day staring at their phone. I mean, you got to have, just to be able to watch the road and eat food and go to the bathroom and do your job. But if they're not doing that, they're doing this. Okay. That's what they're doing. And so I just want to remind you of that. And so these are the apps that they're using. But this gets more mind blowing when you start to think, what are they doing on that? And so what this chart is saying to me, that of those people that are online, that are watching, they're watching video. Over 90% of the people, video is the vehicle. And that's a very broad term, because it could be, silly cat videos, but everything's definitely moving in the video direction, if not completely taking it over. Okay. So, yes, they're doing music videos. Yes, they're, doing research, but look at some of these: 30% educational, product reviews, influencers. And what I would like to say is, I'm presenting a viewpoint that says you can triple dip. You could be all of the above. You could be doing educational video. You could be doing product reviews, which are your products, and you can become an influencer. I'm saying do all three at the same time. And just look, never in the history of marketing, been doing this a long time, have we had the ability to do this without forking out tons of money. Once we broke up the 3 major networks, it was huge, but we were trying to do print ads, and we were doing, mostly you can't afford television. Now you are in the laps of people 24/7, and it's just crazy. So I don't know if you're like me. Sometimes I feel like I'm over here on the far right side where there's just nothing going on. And then right next to me is this massive feeding frenzy. And so the challenge is, how do you get into the flow of where people are? And they're just coming in by the droves. There's more and more people that you can reach. And so the challenge and the question is how do you get into the middle of the flow of where they are? Again, our passion is to, if you can have a consistent brand and it's delivered in a very professional and engaging way, you're going to build quality and trust. So those are the clients that we're looking for. I think you ought to think about that very seriously as you look at your brand. Maybe use the end of this year, if you get a chance to get away and think a little bit about, what is it that we've done good throughout the year, and in view of some of the stuff that Chris is sharing, how do we get a piece of that? How is that going to play a role in what we do going into 24? And there's a lot of different ways to do that. But I think you have to look at everything about building your brand for whatever purpose you're doing that for. And then what's that long play in addition to the short play? Because right now, all we really care about is, I need to get somebody to call today. And if they don't call today, they got to call tomorrow. My problem is, if they stop calling, everything comes to a halt and everybody's looking at me for payroll. So that's the pain that we all feel. So again, you guys throw some questions in there. Let me know what you're thinking, because I'm about to wind this presentation down right now. Let me put this cool little crawl down here. And in the meantime, let me go to this slide here. I want to put one last carrot out there, because a couple of you guys have asked me this, and I at least want to address it. And that is, hey man, I'm no dummy. I'm out there seeing guys just like myself, winning awards. And from what I can tell, they're telling me that they've bought an extra Maserati and they're traveling to the Riviera on their YouTube revenue. So can I actually monetize these efforts? If we're talking specifically in this case about, podcasting or creating videos. And I say to that it's possible, but it's definitely a long play. It's a lot of work. But again, back to the opportunity. There's never been this kind of opportunity. You've never had the ability to say, hey, you know what? I want to be Rupert Murdoch and I want to start my own television empire. And there are people that done that. I mean, get a bunch of guys and do basketball trick shots, and now you're dude perfect. And you're 6 guys making, 7 figures easily. And this is a very small, you can't really see it very good, but it's a chiropractor guy. He's got over 400 videos, but he's pulling in $250,000 a year, just doing his videos. And what he's doing, again, it goes back to, you can't look at this in a vacuum. Some of this content is just great for his people. Hey, I just hired a new secretary. She should know what we're doing. Hey, I just got a new patient. Working with one of my chiropractor friends to build an online, it'll be, you become a patient and you automatically become part of their university. One of the challenges he has is, we've all done this. We go to the chiropractor, works on us once a week, once every 2 weeks. We feel better. A, we forget we felt bad, so we stop going. B, he gives us all kind of exercises to do and we forget to do them. So we feel bad again. And so it works for him because we just keep paying him to go every week. So, he's the Fram oil filter guy. You can pay me now or pay me later. And I think that applies to all of our businesses. If you want to train somebody, can we use some of these tools to say, okay, and give value added to say, okay, when you're a customer of mine, I want to send you to my YouTube channel and you're going to find all these videos to help you maintain your floor, to help you, Megan, you're helping, train and help families of autism. We've talked a lot about how can I create some of these things to where, A, they're not having to just pay a fortune to have me. Can they watch these videos? Can they watch my podcast? Can they have PDFs? Can they have this content somewhere as a value added? Can I charge for it? Yes, you can charge for it. Back on the monetization thing, maybe your long-term goal is to get paid from YouTube, to get paid as an advertisee, advertising. But I think maybe your short-term goal is maybe monetize it and charge for some of this stuff you're creating to your existing base. Or maybe there's a way to start charging for it to people that aren't customers yet, but they're kind of virtual customers. Then that next step is, hey, I want to go to some of my trades and I say, hey, Mr. Trade, Mrs. Trade, I've got this, but if you want to sponsor my podcast, I'll be happy to talk about, your adhesive glue and give a plug for it or whatever that. So I think there's a short-term play there, maybe to be able to turn that into some dollars as well. And those are just a few ideas. So that can be a long play for sure. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to wrap up with. Let me just see if there are some other. Paul says, hey, Paul, what's up, man? I've heard those fish quarreling in school confuses predators, so they have trouble picking out a target. I think the same thing happens to me and other consumers. So many shiny things, I don't know which one to pick. Paul, I think that's a great point. I think our attention spans have gotten shorter. We talked about that. And a lot of us have, ADD when it comes to that kind of stuff. And that's a real thing. And that's a real challenge. I think as a content creator, as a marketer, I've always had the challenge of how do I attract somebody's attention and then how do I keep it? Unfortunately, because the way we're wired, we love pain. We love fear. I have to be very careful with my skill set. With great power comes great responsibility in every aspect, as we all know. And so we can use that for good or bad, but that's why we're in the situation we're in right now, is to get somebody's attention. It's going to take something salacious. It's going to take something probably wrong. It's going to take, we're going to be tempted to make promises that can't be kept. We're going to be tempted to bend the truth because we are fighting an unfair battle with people that are. Hey, come to my practice and I'll regrow your leg. Can't really do that. Hey, come buy my flooring because it'll never wear out. It's perfect and it's almost free. I mean, so we've got to be aware of how do we build value? How do we build trust? I know working with a lot of you guys, you guys are people of integrity. And so you are trying to find the ways to do it right. And I think that's what I would coach people like yourself to do, is to double down on that. In a world of, I would play off of people getting burned. One of the things that Scott and I talk a lot about is just kind of that attitude of, how's that working out for you? Yeah, you went and got, the old pick 2 or 3. You can have it fast, cheap, or good, but then you say, how's that been working out for you? Are you willing to pay for value? You're going to get an honest product, and we're going to work our butt off for you, because it's in our best interest to have good reviews. A lot of you guys work very hard for your reviews. And happy birthday, Paul. I didn't know it was your birthday. Sorry, man. Let me text you a animation as if I remember. Love you, man. So, at this point, I'm in the rambling stage. What did I spur any ideas from you guys? I can certainly let you go a little early. Is there anything that you've seen online, you've got a question about, you need a piece of technology to do? I'm happy to try to answer any of those, but I'm also, hey, Hannah, what's going on? Let me pull that up here. What did she say? Anna says, what are the latest trends in digital brand building that small business? Well, that's a big question. I appreciate you asking, Hannah. I think video is huge. I think businesses have got to be aware of their place in the video verse, because it's never been easier. We've never been able to carry around a 4K video studio in our pocket. So, that product that I have that I'd love to see kind of take off for people that, aren't in the position of dropping $2 or $3 grand a month, even though they know they need to, and they know it's cheaper than hiring a marketing person. You got to do what you got to do. And so the ability to say, hey, I'm going to download this free app, and I'm going to hit go, and somebody like Chris is going to help coach me through what do I need to say, and then they're going to edit it up and make it look great, because I've got a YouTube channel, or I've got a website, or I've got social media, but I don't know what to put on it. We didn't talk much at all about the ability to take things like Chat GPT and in a matter of minutes create blogs and scripts. And one of the things I really encourage, I love a client. I would love to get more clients that literally are comfortable at the end of the day or at lunchtime to take their iPhone, point it at themselves, and hit record and just go. Just start whatever it is that spiel they give, that they just gave to a customer or their employee, and just put it on video, and then send it to me on a Dropbox, and then let us chop it up and make magic out of it so that you can use it. Because you're just wasting all that. It's just going out into the ether. You're helping one person maybe, and maybe they remember and maybe they listen, but now you want to put something that lives evergreen, and it keeps getting used and used over and over again. And when it's out of date, you just pull it. It's as simple as that. Again, back to Scott. He said, you just delete it. What's the worst thing that can happen? You just hit delete and you hit record again. So, good stuff. Hey, Paul, love you too. All right, guys. Again, thank you so much for being here. If you don't have any other questions, that is totally fine too, because I have given you the most amazing presentation in the world, and I've answered all your questions. But I do want you to consider what you're going to be doing going into the new year. And I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you. And if you're new, you're brand new, you're just checking this out, you're watching it on the rewatch, because I certainly intend on reposting this and cutting this up for social media myself, give us a call. We're happy to help you with that. And I want to recommend you to the clients that I work with in their businesses. So with that, let me see real quick. You got to be careful what you send me, because I might just put it up on the screen. How can we work together to create shorts and reels consistently? I think that's a great question. One of the things I'm struggling with in my little business here is we've got the creation part down. And this is kind of speaking to some of you guys and my clients that are listening. I think we're doing a good job of creating the stuff. We got to do a better job of getting it out there. It does no good to have a shop full of toys if they're all just sitting on the shelf and not being played with by kids. So we've got to get it out there better, and get a system of, sometimes another thing I think is proofing. Nobody has time to sit and proof stuff. So, you're hiring a company to make sure that there's no typos in it. It looks great, but it's also speaking for you. And so the ability to make a little time to go, let me go back and look at this and approve it and tweak it, and then we'll get it out there. So I think making regular times on your schedule to say, okay, I'm going to focus, just like anything, I'm going to focus, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. on content. And if that means I'm going to get on a call with Chris, or I'm going to sit down, and what I'd prefer is that you sit down with a sheet of paper and write out your goals and write down some things you want to cover, and then hit record some stuff so that we can do stuff with it. Even if nothing else, you record something and go, this is what I'm thinking. I just hit record and I started rambling a little bit. And then my rambling turned into, I got on a roll and I just started, all of a sudden I gave the greatest pitch in the world for a new product I want to do. I was thinking over the weekend and I wrote this on a napkin, and let me just pitch it to you, Chris, as if I'm pitching it to a new customer. Boom. Well, now we've got something to work with. It's like writing a song. We can now take it and do something with it. And it's amazing what we can do when we start adding B-roll that we've shot, or that we found industry-wide. And all of a sudden we've got a really nice video with some music put to it. And you're like, wow, that just started out with me sitting on the back porch talking into my phone, and it became, a nicely produced video. One other little tidbit, if you're watching this, back to the cloning, we are getting very close to where I've got a couple of videos created now where I've actually trained the AI. If we type something, so for instance, I write a script with the help of ChatGPT and we approve it. I click a couple of buttons and it gets read by my client's voice, or a pretty close facsimile. So you see where that's going, the ability to very quickly say, look, I've got reams of stuff that I believe in and that I have the rights to use, whether it's stuff I've bought or I'm part of a trade, industry stuff, that I've got all this content. Can you guys take this and make it content, in my voice? And the answer is yes. And that's something worth thinking about as well. We're getting to the point, it won't be long, where we'll have virtual yous and me's, which we can talk about how scary and terrifying that is. But just where we've come in the last 12 months is mind-boggling, just absolutely mind-boggling in terms of AI. So where we'll be 12 months from now, who knows? But I certainly want to be on the front end of it. I don't want to be on the back end of it. I don't want to get lapped by some young guy or gal that's starting a company now that's about to crush me 12 months from now because I just ignored some of this stuff. Okay. So with that glorious thought, we can start to wrap things up. Thank you again so much for joining me today. If this is something you think I ought to keep doing, throw it in the comments, like it, share it, the whole 9 yards. Maybe next time I can get some people I don't actually know, and we can dive in deeper. But I'm gonna keep doing this until otherwise. Hopefully we can build a little community here. And again, I thank you guys for helping me out. I will let you go. Have a great day and take care of yourself.